Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Spanish Football Podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides. I'm joined as ever by Sid Lowe, who has just had a sip of Ribena like he was a child in the UK in the 1980s. You're right, Sid.
I was a child in the UK in the 1980s.
Yes.
Sadly, those days are long, long gone. I got this Ribena last time I was down on the East Coast. I found a British shop, and I was very excited to be able to buy Ribena and Branston's pickle.
You can take the lad out of North London, but even he's been here 25 years, he still wants Branston pickle. For our transatlantic listeners and viewers, Google what Branston pickle is.
Yeah, it's
and
impossible
also
to
Ribena.
explain, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, it's a busy week. Obviously, Champions League and European games involving Spanish sides, as well as La Liga. So loads for us to talk about. This is what happened on Matchday 31 in La Liga EA Sports this weekend. It was the retro weekend in La Liga, and lots of people seem to enjoy that. So
that's for the Ribena. There you go. There's my excuse. I've gone for the Ribena because it's a retro weekend.
Beautifully tied in. Friday night saw Real Madrid draw 1-1. With Girona, second time this season, they've drawn 1-1 with the Catalans. A similar performance to other games that we've seen from Real Madrid this season. More on that in just a moment. Real Sociedad and Alaves played out a thrilling 3-3 draw at the Real Arena. Alaves getting an equaliser deep into stoppage time after they'd twice been ahead in the game. Really entertaining. And if you want entertainment, watch Alaves. I'm not going to go as far as to say hashtag always watch Alaves, but maybe sometimes watch Alaves.
Maybe just watch them from the 90th minute onwards.
Yes, it's true. It's true because, yes, there have been lots of dramatic goals late on in their matches recently. Elche beat Valencia 1-0 in a regional derby, which was absolutely massive for them and had big ramifications at the bottom of the table. It moved them out of the relegation zone and moved Sevilla into the relegation zone. Sevilla subsequently moved out of the relegation zone, beating Atletico Madrid's, I was going to say B team, might even be their C team or D or under 19s. They fielded a much weakened and much changed side for their trip to the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, and they were beaten 2-1 by Sevilla, who duly moved out of the bottom three. Before that, Barcelona won the Catalan derby 4-1 against Espanyol. They were made to work hard, though, in the second half by Los Pericos. Then on Sunday, Osasuna won, Betis won. Mallorca beat Rayo 3-0. Oviedo beat Celta Vigo 3-0, Sid. I mean, I was going to say what the bloody hell happened there. I was commentating the game and you weren't actually watching it properly. So I was.
I was trying to. I was in the little side room about 5 meters from where you were commentating. Unfortunately, it didn't have your commentary on it. It was silent. So I had the radio on and the television on, which wasn't the most ideal way to watch it.
Well, I got very excited when Fede scored his goals, particularly the second one. What a striker he is, the Uruguayan. 9 goals for him. And Oviedo with a slender slither of hope, 6 points from safety. The Sunday night game, which Sydney was co-commentating, saw Villarreal beat Athletic Club 2-1. Monday night football. Ooh, this is what's above platinum level? What is above platinum level?
Is it just like double platinum, the way it is with albums that sell very well? It's double or treble platinum.
Platinum plus level game tonight. Levante Getafe. If you're watching that, we love you. We like you. We want to be friends with you. We're doing a live show in London next Friday the 24th.
What? You're joking. Oh, God.
There's literally, I think, 4 or 5 tickets left. Not many at all. It's a very small venue. We were told the capacity was 80 and we've sold around 75. So there's a few left. We'll be upstairs at the Fox on the Green pub on Upper Street, Islington from 6:30 p.m. Next Friday, the 24th of April. Tickets are £19.50. That includes a drink. You can find the link in the episode description. Come and see us. And also come and join us at patreon.com/TSFP. There's loads of bonus content there. We do a Q&A pod every Tuesday, a bonus pod every Thursday. You get the Monday and Friday pods without any adverts. There's also the TSFP newsletter, which is already out today for patrons, reflecting on the weekend's action. And over the summer, that's the only place we're going to be podding. So it's €4.75 a month. It's cheaper if you get an annual membership. And, you know, I say it every week, but it's pretty good value, guys. There's lots of content there if you like Spanish football. So we're wondering, Sid, where do we start this week? Do we start chronologically with the Friday night game? I mean, I don't think we're going to dwell too much on Real Madrid 1, Girona 1, because it is actually quite challenging to find new ways to say Real Madrid aren't very good. Yeah. What did you make of this game? Obviously, you were there.
Well, what I made of it, I mean, should we start with the end and just briefly say this before we move on, which is to say that at the very end, Real Madrid had a very big penalty shout, which has caused a lot of noise because Mbappe gets an elbow in the face and there's blood across the top of his head and on his hands when he lifts his head up. There's blood in his hands, and really and truly, that should be a penalty. There's no two ways about it. I must admit, my first glance, I didn't think so. Even the second glance, even the replay, I didn't think so. And then there's a third replay where I absolutely did, because I think Victor Reis doesn't just have his arm up and Mbappe goes into it. I think he moves his arm towards Mbappe, which is extraordinarily stupid, by the way, as well as being a foul. The reason why I didn't think it was the first time is because the first time I thought it was Mbappe running into him as he was running beyond him and just running towards where his arm is. But I think it's not. I think it's an arm drawn back into Mbappe's face. And the fact that blood is everywhere certainly undoes any argument that says it wasn't particularly hard because he managed to split his head open. Should have been a penalty, and Real Madrid would very likely have won the game. But I think there's something much deeper, and I think this is why I wanted to kind of put that at the start and then say, that's maybe the context of this particular result. But I think a broader question is what this game was. And what this game was really was the kind of game we've seen a lot of. Even at half-time, at which point Real Madrid had 2 or 3 pretty good chances. I would say 1 really good chance and a couple of pretty good chances. Even at that point, I felt like Girona were the kind of team that Real Madrid have had difficulties with. And those, generally speaking, are teams that on the face of it, you say, yes, they win this. But teams that are prepared to wait quite deep. And it was interesting listening to Michel post-game, who said that, we didn't want to play like that, but this is Real Madrid and we felt we had to. And there was a bit of me that kind of thought, there's a lesson there for some managers who this year haven't realised that. And it's quite baffling that they haven't, including possibly even, and, I've said this before, it doesn't feel fair for me to wade in on managers who are clearly geniuses.
Do it.
But even a manager who belongs to the same ownership group as Michel and happens to be in charge of Manchester City. But anyway, that's another issue. So I felt even at half-time, at which point I thought Real Madrid probably should have led, but maybe not. And Girona had a couple of decent chances themselves, maybe not really clear ones, but again, a couple of decent chances. I felt this is exactly the kind of team that causes Real Madrid problems, a team that's prepared to wait for them, but also a team that's quite good with the ball. So it doesn't just wait for them with the bus, waits for them with the ball. And then as Real Madrid come to them, are quite good at picking their way through them. And I thought there were a handful of times, even in that first half, where Girona went right through the middle of the pitch. And really quite comfortably. And then when Real Madrid scored, to be honest with you, I thought, okay, that probably ends it. And it was a terrible goal, by the way. It's a semi-decent shot, and it's one of the most bizarre bits of goalkeeping I've seen this year.
From a bizarre goalkeeper, to be fair. Paulo Gazzaniga.
I think he is. He makes really strange mistakes at the same time as making some very good saves. But he makes really strange mistakes. Admittedly, more often than not, those mistakes are made with the ball at his feet, not with him trying to make saves. And he tried to save the ball with the wrong part of his arm, basically, and just completely got it wrong. Anyway, so Real Madrid go 1-0 up. And at that point, I think, all right, it's done. But they didn't kill the game. They didn't create anything. Girona carve open one opportunity. It's not a brilliant opportunity, but a shooting opportunity in the edge of the area. Lamar scores a really good goal, takes it brilliantly. And then Madrid didn't really make anything happen. They didn't really find a way back in. And we've seen this before. We saw it a little bit last week. We saw it against Osasuna. We saw it. It's a bit different against Getafe, but some elements of similarity with Getafe. And really and truly, Madrid didn't make things score. They had a couple of moments where they got the ball into the box. A couple of moments, I think, to be honest, where it was a little bit desperate. There's one moment when I think Mbappe dives, although I am prepared to admit that having seen the replay, I thought, oof, he might have got it. Not the one we talked about at the start, but another one. And then they should have had the penalty at the end. But the truth is that this was a poor performance. And I think Real Madrid's fans know that.
And I think there's actually been a bit of pushback from Real Madrid fans because afterwards Alvaro Arbeloa comes out and starts going on about the penalty. And obviously, it is a pretty clear penalty. But he's going on and on about this.
Yeah.
But he's sort of, giving it as kind of the reason why Real Madrid lost. And I think a lot of Real Madrid fans and even Real Madrid journalists who are fans as well, sort of pushing back on this idea that the penalty was the reason why Real Madrid lost this game, which it was. Well, sorry, drew this game, which was not the reason.
No, it's not. And I think in the stadium that was very clear. Now, obviously, it was partly clear because some of the protests in the stadium and some of the reactions in the stadium, the whistles, the getting on the players' backs, happened before that potential penalty. So then you get the anger pre the penalty. Then you get the penalty that's not given. And of course, you get the anger aimed at the referee. But I think the fundamental feeling throughout that stadium was, this is happening again. Yeah. This team isn't very good. They haven't been very good all year. It's a bit simplistic, but there is also that feeling that fans have of, this team doesn't really seem to be trying very hard, which is bizarre. Now, one example of this on Friday night.
They started well this game, Sid. For first 10, 15 minutes, I think they started pretty well.
I don't think it was very long. And I think they started well in the context of what we've said a lot of times this year, where we thought they were half decent. They started well in the context of a season where they haven't played well. So very little we grab hold of. But one of the things that was interesting for me, I don't want this to sound dismissive, and I think there's a chance that it does. But anyway, let me do it. Was at one point, the Real Madrid fans started chanting "Échale huevos." Now, for those of our listeners that don't know, this is, put your bollocks into it, make an effort, basically run around a bit.
Balls.
Yeah. And I must admit, I thought, wow, is that all you've got? And I don't mean the fans, although it feels a little bit like that. But I think it's a pretty sorry state of affairs where a club as big as Real Madrid, that sort of the response is, would you like to try?
I mean, you kind of hear that chant all over Spain.
You do. But I did think it was, I thought it was quite eloquent in a way.
Yes.
And it's possible that I'm reaching a bit. But I thought it was quite eloquent because I thought it kind of said, wow, it's that basic.
Sid, far be it from me to be someone who picks statistics off the internet, not verify them, and go with them as an idea. But
let's see them though.
Broadly speaking, what I'm going to do here, some stats that I saw on Twitter from I think it's an individual account. And I haven't verified these myself, but I'm just going to use them as a starting point for a suggestion. Now, this person has put, with Mbappe and Vinicius both starting together for Real Madrid this season, there have been 23 games where they've started together. They have a 61% win percentage. When only one of them plays, 24 games where only one of them has played, they have a 75% win percentage. They've won 4 more matches. Now, this doesn't take into account the opponents or anything like that. It is a little bit simplistic. And again, I'll just state this again. I haven't verified these stats, so they might be completely wrong, although it feels about right.
They feel plausible, definitely, yeah.
I mean, this is an idea which has been kind of there underlying this season and perhaps last season as well, about these two players playing together. I don't know if you've seen, there's a clip from CBS, which is going viral in Spain. It's actually from a few weeks ago. It's Thierry Henry analysing Real Madrid and analysing Kylian Mbappe's movement into the left-hand side and occupying space where he really doesn't need to be occupying if he's playing as a centre forward, basically getting into people's way. And people have picked up on this. I think it was against Osasuna. It was a while ago anyway. But people have picked up on this, and this idea is beginning to grow that there is a problem with these two players playing together. The team doesn't play as well with these two players playing together, which, if you say it, sounds ridiculous, feels ridiculous. But we've seen it with our own eyes, Sid.
Yes.
Many, many times, these two players don't elevate the team to the level which they should.
And we've seen it all season, and we've been saying it all season. In fact, we were saying it even before this season. We were saying it for quite a lot of last season as well. I think that there was a period, I'm trying to think when we would be talking about, I guess really Xabi Alonso seemed to have found a way of getting Mbappe to be a centre forward. And we sort of had started to trust that they could play, because we've talked lots of times about exactly what that Thierry Henry clip is, which is the occupation of similar spaces. The getting in each other's way rather than the opening space and opportunity for each other. I think one of the things that's happened this year is that the discourse around this has tended to be about effort. And it's tended to be about, well, you can't have two players that don't chase back. And I actually have quite a lot of sympathy for that view, because I think, broadly speaking, there's an element of truth in that. But I think that it's a bit oversimplistic, because I think it doesn't take into account occupation of space. I think it's not just about, would these two guys... Let's go back to the chant. It's not just échale huevos. It's not just about would you two run around a bit, please, although that wouldn't be a bad starting point. I think it is about occupation of space. I think it is about natural inclinations. And players don't necessarily deliberately go and get in each other's way. There's a natural inclination, a natural drift of where they go to, the kind of places where they feel comfortable. I would argue that although they do it in different ways, the ideal move for both of these players starts in the same place, which is to go to the left-hand side, to find the space to receive the ball, and then turn and go to people. Now, what Vinicius tends to do is go outside and then cut sharply inside. Mbappe tends to sort of bend across inside. But they, broadly speaking, starting and trying to finish in similar places, although Mbappe is much more likely to come inside, top of the penalty area. Vinicius is much more likely to try and get to the byline and come back to people. But they do similar things and occupy similar spaces, and it's a problem. The other question in this, and we've talked about this before, is let's take it on a player, shall we? Let's add Bellingham to this as well.
Okay.
Because this is another player who I think Bellingham, in theory, can drive through the middle, can be a number 10. But if you're a number 10, you're in some of Mbappe's space. The other thing is that Bellingham tends to drift leftwards, even from that midfield position. So they're in the space of the other two, both of them. Not exactly, but occupying things. Not the occupation of space on the pitch is not as rational or not as spread out or not as well distributed as it should be. Yes. And I think it's absolutely true. I do think they are, mental though it sounds, they are at times a worse team with both of them in it.
Very, very quickly, because we have dwelled on this game quite a lot.
We have too much,
no, it's all right. We don't need to apologise. We can do what we like. It's our podcast.
There is that.
Alvaro Arbeloa, in his selection for this game, was pretty clearly, and his subsequent substitutes as well, thinking about the game against Bayern Munich, because you have Tchouaméni, who is suspended for that game against Bayern Munich. He cannot play, and he has been Real Madrid's best player this season by some distance.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Most consistent player. He doesn't play in this game. Instead, he puts in Eduardo Camavinga because he wants to try and get him in good shape for that Bayern Munich game. Try and get him, practice playing with Bellingham and Fede Valverde. I'm not entirely sure. It didn't really work at all. He then brings on Ferland Mendy with 12 minutes to go. Ferland Mendy is not an attacking fullback. You need a goal in this game. He brings on Ferland Mendy to give him some minutes ahead of that Bayern Munich game, not to try and win the game against Girona. He gives Trent, Rudiger and Carreras the night off. They're not even on the bench for this game. It just felt like a sort of another miscalculation from Alvaro Arbeloa from my perspective. And I get it. Yeah. The Champions League is huge, but you can't just sort of give up on the league like this.
No. Look, I mean, I get it as well, because the Champions League is huge, because you think that the players you've got are good enough to be able to do this and still win this game. And probably they should have been. And they would argue that had they been given that penalty at the end, they would have been. Although who knows if they'd have scored it. I mean, the likelihood is they would have scored it, but who knows for sure. I do understand it, but it is true. It suggests a manager that I think two things. One, prioritises the Champions League, and I think two, maybe has actually said the league has already gone, which, by the way, now I think it has. And it probably
now
had.
It has. They're 9 points behind.
9 points behind with 21. Is it 21 left in play? I think 21 left in play.
Yes.
And so really and truly, it's just not going to happen for them now. I think as well, the other thing is, of course, that the experiment, as you've mentioned, and this is maybe the even more important part of it, the experiment wasn't necessarily that useful either.
No.
So in terms of Mendy, I'm not sure how useful 12 minutes is, but I guess you give him what you can. I don't know, but there's a bit of me that thinks if you're going to try Mendy, give him half an hour. Let's see him properly, see if he's physically okay properly. That's one thing. The other thing is a Tchouaméni thing. And Arbeloa had said pre-game that he was not thinking about the Champions League. And then his starting lineup told us he was thinking about the Champions League. Because you're right, Tchouaméni starts 100% for sure if you're only thinking about the league. But he wanted to see Camavinga there. And he admitted post-game, he said, I wanted to see Camavinga at number 6. And I wanted to see him at number 6. And then he essentially admitted that the things that Camavinga doesn't have there were shown again. The positional ability, the ability to kind of stay in place and not be dragged into other parts of the game, not be carrying the ball into places where you don't necessarily need to be. And I think actually it was such an inconclusive experiment that we're sitting here now thinking we don't know what the midfield will be in midweek. I thought there was a chance of it being Valverde, and once Valverde played on the right in this game, I thought, right, well, it won't be. But I now think it might be again, because maybe you put Brahim there and you bring Valverde into the middle. But you certainly haven't given them the time to test it out.
Let's move on. We should mention Girona. That's all right. We should mention Girona as well, who got another good result against Real Madrid. Obviously, drew with them again in Montilivi. Their season, they won 2 of their first 15 games, but they've won 7 of their next 15. They've got a draw here against Real Madrid, and they've turned things around with some pretty good players, Sid.
Yes. And they used, as I say, this is why I thought there was a chance that they would get something from Madrid, because they used the ball nicely. And although they played deeper than they would like, they were very good, I thought, when they picked their way out from deeper positions. And you're right, the turnaround suggests that, well, we already thought they weren't in trouble. In fact, funnily enough, it's tightening up a bit because the teams at the bottom are winning, and maybe some of those teams who thought they were safe, like Girona, like even Valencia a couple of weeks ago, like Athletic Club, all now think, well, there's half a chance. There shouldn't be, by the way, but they now think there is half a chance. But I think with Girona, it didn't happen immediately, and there was a degree of tension. But I think in part it was about ultimately deciding, okay, we are who we are. We get on with this, and we carry on doing this the right way, and we support each other in it.
They managed to get this win without Ladislav Vanat, their top scorer, who's out for the rest of the season. They've got points off. I mean, they drew with Real Madrid. They beat Barcelona, and they beat Villarreal as well. So they are a good team as the fire engines go past your house, Sydney.
Yeah, that was quite disconcerting. Well. I hope it's not my house.
Let's talk about Barcelona beating Espanyol by 4-1. It looks like a comprehensive scoreline. And in the end, it was. Barcelona were 2-0 up at half-time, and they looked really, really comfortable. Espanyol really went for them, though, at the start of the second half. They managed to get a goal back. Ferran Torres had scored the first 2 goals from 2 brilliant Lamine Yamal assists. But then Paul Lozano scored for Espanyol, and Barcelona had a nervy 25 minutes in that second half when Espanyol were going for them. They were unable to wrap up the victory, but then Lamine Yamal scored, and it was all over. So Barcelona managing to get the victory. Very important for Ferran Torres to score, and he had some quite pointed remarks to say afterwards. And Lamine Yamal, the outside of the boot passes, it's just, I mean, we've normalised it. It's not normal to be able to do that many times that good as well. So he's in terrific form. Barcelona 9 points clear, and they're going to be champions, Sid.
They are going to be champions, and I've been writing about this today because it seemed to me that in a way the Lamine Yamal goal is the embodiment of the league title race, which is Lamine celebrates before the ball's gone over the line. Barcelona can now celebrate before the league has gone over the line as well, because they know it's happening. It's done. Lamine was fantastic again. They did get themselves into a nervous position. And I quite liked Manolo Gonzalez's comment. He said it was more like the cemetery of Les Courts for a bit, and then they scored. The cemetery of Les Courts, by the way, is literally just the other side of the stadium wall. As you know, to use the old cliche, I've always said this, that Barcelona is between life and death, because you've got a maternity hospital on one side and a cemetery on the other side of the stadium. And Barcelona, for a moment, I thought, oof, there's a chance that they lose this, or not lose this. There's a chance that they don't win this, because there's a brilliant chance for Roberto Fernandez as well. And by the way, that explains why Lamine is still on the pitch to score the winning goal in the 87th minute, because Flick admitted that he was planning to take Lamine and Pedri off. And that would have played I actually think in a way he was fortunate, because that plan was somewhere around the hour, and Espanyol scored just before the hour. So he decides, right, I can't take him off. Imagine if he'd taken him off and then Espanyol had scored. There might have been a few more nerves. So they stay on the pitch. This is interesting. And this is almost the opposite of what Arbeloa said. So Arbeloa says, I'm not thinking about the Champions League, but plays a team that demonstrates that he is. Flick had said in the pre-match press conference, which I thought was very, very unusual, oh, it's absolutely the priority of the Champions League. That's the one you really want to win. And you're thinking, oh, wow. You're sort of undermining the significance of the trophy that you are almost certainly going to win. And I think now are certainly going to win. But then his starting lineup belied that, because his starting lineup was basically as strong as it could have been.
Pretty much.
I don't think there's a concession in there unless you count Lewandowski as a concession. And I think given his physical condition, that's not a concession. It's a necessity. No. It's a necessity. And I don't think there's any other big changes, is there?
Koundé didn't start.
I suppose Koundé and Cancelo, the two fullbacks.
Cancelo,
yeah. But you play Lamine and you play Pedri, and then you play a strong side, and then you keep them on the pitch. And then you go and win the game, which basically wins you the title. There's lots of things to pick up on. I mean, Lamine's performance is obviously a really key one. I'd like to pick up on a player that I don't really understand why he's not in the team anymore.
Okay.
Look at the setup for Lamine's goal, for the third goal from Marc Casador.
Uh-huh.
It's impossible to be more Marc Casador, that setup. Win the ball, quickly turn, play the ball through the gap, someone's in, goal. Now, admittedly, someone's in, it still needs Dimitrovic to get it a little bit wrong. It still needs Lamine to chase him down and for the rebound to go off him and for him to run through on goal on his own. But that Casado-Robben pass, I think Barcelona miss it. And I don't really understand. I mean, I know Mark Bernal's played very well, but we've seen quite a lot of Eric in midfield, and I like Eric. We've seen, obviously, Frankie de Jong out injured. I don't really understand why, in this context, we've not seen more of Marc Casado, to be honest with you.
Because Hansi Flick prefers Eric Garcia.
Yes, he does. Yeah. But I would say, again, let's go back to what I was saying about Pep Guardiola. I feel stupid ever questioning managers who clearly know a million times more than me. But there's a bit of me that thinks, has there not been more of a place for him this year? I sort of feel like there could and maybe should have been.
Yeah, he hasn't played at all. I think it's around 20 league appearances, but the number of minutes are
very low,
particularly high. Yes, but go on then. Wax lyrical about Lamine.
Well, he's just brilliant, and he carries the
15 league goals, 11 league assists. He's got a double-double, Sid.
Yeah, a double-double. And I tell you what, here's the other thing. This was his 100th league game. Yeah, he's not 19 yet. He is more than a year younger than the last player, or the other youngest player to get to 100 games, which was Raul González Blanco. He's just scored the goal that's about to give them his third league title. He's 18. He's about to win his third league title. And some of the touches in this game are absurd. There's that one in the first half where he kind of rolls his foot over the ball and nudges it past. Who is it that he goes past? I can't remember now. I think it either through the legs or just the side of the ankle of the guy in front of him. And the sort of place goes, ooh. And there was a few moments like that. We just think, wow. He's very, very good indeed. Now, we talked about this. Let's see how Atletico deal with him, because I think they dealt with him pretty well in the first leg. By having that thing we were talking about, that escalonada thing of having someone else waiting for him every time he comes in and crowding him out. And of course, that then puts the responsibility on whoever plays on the other wing to drag that team out and to not have everyone on Lamine Yamal.
How much responsibility is on Lamine Yamal's shoulders going into the Champions League game against Atletico Madrid? It feels like, a huge amount.
Yeah, and there is a bit of me that says or that thinks, and is now about to say, too much.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be this responsibility on him. But then there's also a part of me that thinks, well, why is it too much? He's the best player. He's the most creative player. He wants that responsibility. He wants the ball to him. I think you do need to do things that take the footballing pressure off him, if not necessarily the emotional pressure, because I think the signs are he quite likes some of that emotional pressure. Although we had that moment, didn't we? What was it, 2-3 months ago, when he talked about the pressure that had been on him. And it was the first time I think he'd opened himself up to say, this is a bit much at times and this can be overbearing. But I think in footballing terms, I think he wants it. I think there's that little touch of, I don't know if it's enthusiasm or cockiness or self-assuredness, I think is a big part of his game. But yeah, I do think they could do with someone opening up the pitch on the other side, if only not to allow the other team to gravitate towards him in such big numbers.
Really looking forward to the game tomorrow. It's turned into one of the most exciting fixtures you can imagine.
Yeah.
Atletico Madrid against Barcelona. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing that. Espanyol still haven't won in 2026, Sid. I mean, it's just a ridiculous run.
I'm gonna do the sweary bit, although Indian iTunes might not like it. Tell you what, I won't swear. I will rhyme it. Fernando Calero was asked about this run of them not winning in 2026, and he described it as clucking brick.
Yes,
that's not very good rhyme, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it doesn't rhyme that much, but yes, they very bad. Stick to the day job, Sid. Don't start up poetry or rapping. They haven't won since I think it's the 20th of December. They met Barcelona the last time on the 3rd of January. They were 5th. They'd won 5 games in a row.
The beginning of this run, yeah.
That's the beginning of this run, and now they should be okay though because of such a good first half to the season. I don't think
they should. Although I think the gap's only 6 points now, isn't it?
I think it might be 7, but
it might be 7, 6 or 7 to the relegation zone. Yeah,
6-7, Sid. 6-7.
6-7.
You did the game of Athletic Club against Villarreal. We've spoken a little bit about the woes of Athletic Club in the newsletter for patrons, so I don't want to talk about that. I want you to talk to me about Nico Williams, who started this game, first start for a good while. How did he look? How far off the pace is he?
Right, so he didn't really do anything really. No, I'm going to back away from that in a second. Really tangible. But there were a couple of times where he picked the ball up and he would go at people and you could see a little bit of a spark and you kind of saw the hope that something would happen. but not much that actually did. I don't think this was absolutely awful from Athletic, but it wasn't
No, it
good.
wasn't.
And defensively, they made really bad errors. I thought it was far too easy to find a way through them. I thought they didn't manage to deal with Villarreal's ability to pick the ball up deep and launch beyond them. I mean, launch makes it sound really basic. I don't think it's as basic as that, because I think one of the things about Villarreal and how little possession they have and how many chances they make from that possession, how clear those chances are, is because of how intelligently they run counterattacks. It's not just that they're quick and someone boots it up the pitch and everyone sprints after it. And the performance of Gerard Moreno was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal in this game. But yes, Nico Williams didn't look great. My optimistic mindset says, from a Spain point of view,
it
may well be. He's got 7 weeks now. Admit it's not 7 weeks, 7 games, which is squeezed into 5 weeks, I think. I wonder if actually that's a good amount of time, having not had much of a season, to get himself ready for the World Cup, and ready for the World Cup with a point to prove. I wonder if, from international point of view, it might not be as terrible as having played 60 games this season and arrived in the US knackered.
Maybe. But what we saw last night...
Oh, no. What we saw last night doesn't say he's going to have a great World Cup. But as I say, it's the start of a 7-game run now of getting himself ready, plus a couple of warm-up games for Spain. It's possibly a little too late. I think De La Fuente will take him if he can. I think De La Fuente just wants 2 or 3 games from him to say, yeah, okay, cool, you're in.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see if he produces 2 or 3 games in the last 7 of the season. I alluded to the fact that Atletico Madrid played their kids against Sevilla at the Metropolitano, making 10 changes, Diego Simeone, from the first leg against Barcelona in the Champions League. Only Juan Musso, the goalkeeper, keeping his place. One of the debutants scored, Sid, didn't he?
Yeah, his reaction was brilliant as well, Bonyar. He scores this goal, he runs to the corner, he starts crying. Post-game, he's crying as well. He then did a nice interview with one of the radio stations. He said, they said, what went through your mind when you scored? He said, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know whether to kiss the badge or whether to run to the manager, whether to run to the corner, what to do about it. He then said, I've had a really difficult week. I suppose he must have known. He said he hadn't slept. He must have known that there was a chance of playing and the pressure that was on him. And it was actually really quite nice to see in a way. It also reinforces something that I think we sometimes forget with players, and particularly players who come through at the clubs that that they've been at for a long time, rather than players who kind of take a while to make first team football.
14 years he'd been at Atleti.
Yeah, and this is something that speaks to this idea that we sometimes say, oh, whatever happens to that player, we thought he was going to be great, and he was brilliant at the start, and then nothing really happened, and then you get this thing, that cliche of saying, oh, it's easy to make it, it's very hard to stay there, which I only half buy. I think there are certain circumstances in which I buy that, but I don't buy it entirely. But I think what is true is that for kids who get into the first team, take Bonyar this weekend. You and me look at that and think that's the start. But listen to him, and it tells you something that we don't see. That's the end for these kids. And I think that is sometimes why the careers don't develop, because actually they fought like bastards to get to that point. And that point sometimes comes with a contract, and it sometimes comes with an opportunity. And it also, I think, sometimes comes with a decompression that says, I've made it. Because those kids are not just trying to make it to the first team every year, but every year, the kids they play with, probably only 2 or 3 are making it. They're watching kids get cut all the time. So you get to the first team and we think beginning. And I think quite often they think, oh, I've made it. It's the end.
That's quite poetic, Sid. That is, yeah, I like that.
It's true though, isn't it? I think for a lot of them, it's true.
I think it is true. All right, briefly, wax lyrical about Oviedo. How much hope have you got? Not much, but a little.
I saw the statistics. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I worked out that it basically said Oviedo were 96% to go down. So obviously it was 3% to stay up. And I thought that 3% will do for me. The tragedy,
so
of course.
Telling me there's a chance.
Exactly. The tragedy, of course, this weekend after Oviedo didn't just win at Vigo, but score 3 goals. And the second from Fede Viñas, I think, is brilliant.
Oh.
Scores it with his studs. It's a volley with his studs. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's not just winning, it's winning 3-0. Obviously, the downer being that everybody else won. Obviously, Levante haven't played yet, but none of the bottom 7 lost this weekend. None of the bottom 7. You alluded to it earlier. Let me kind of do the run, which I find kind of entertaining. So you had Elche in the relegation zone and came out of it. which put Sevilla in the relegation zone, and they won and came out of it, which put Mallorca in the relegation zone, and they won and came out of it, to which Elche went, shit, we're back in it again. And so you've got those three all winning. You've got Oviedo winning and might have thought, here's a chance to close the gap, but everyone around them has won as well. Even just above those teams, you've got Alaves getting a late equaliser. So there's a point there that they might not have anticipated getting. So everybody be picking up points, which is why teams like Rayo and Athletic and so on are thinking, oh, hang on, this shouldn't be this close, but maybe it is close now. And I kind of would like to pick up on something that Luis Garcia said, because I think it sums it up for all of them. He said at the end of the game,
new manager of Sevilla.
Yeah, there's a moment where Lookman gets the ball. And at this point, Sevilla are winning 2-1.
Keep it friendly, Sid. Keep it family friendly.
I'm going to try and keep this friendly. When Lookman got the ball, he said, I soiled myself.
Yeah.
He said it in a slightly more aggressive way, even just using a ruder word for soiled, because he said, I did it alive. I soiled myself alive. Yeah. And he said, look, every game from now to the end is going to be a heart attack. That's the way it is. We are going to have to suffer. It's going to have to be like this. We have to recognize this. We have to realize it, and we have to take it head on. I don't think this was a massive win for Sevilla. I don't think it was that great a performance.
No.
But it was huge, huge for them. I don't think it was a great performance from Elche, but it was huge for them. Funny enough, of the teams down there, the two that did performances that they really genuinely deserved were Oviedo and Mallorca, for whom, of course, Vedat Murici is now the all-time top scorer in the first division for the club.
55 goals.
And top scorer in the first division in Spain this season, by the way.
Without penalties. Yeah.
I think that's huge. I know you could say, you shouldn't take out penalties. No, okay, maybe you shouldn't. But I think it's a good illustration of just how brilliant a season he's having.
It is tremendous from Vedat Murici. Before we go, this is what's been going on in the Segunda. It's pretty wild in the Segunda.
It is. It really
after leaders Racing lost 6-2 last weekend, they then went and beat promotion rivals Almeria 5-1 this weekend. They're top on 65 points. Then it's Depor and Almeria on 61. Depor drew 1-1 at Huesca. After them, it's Malaga, who beat Las Palmas 2-0. And Burgos, who beat Sporting on 1-0. They're on 60 points. And a mention for Granada's Jorge Pascual, who the referee's report tells us was shown a red card for calling the assistant referee Puto Bigotes in their 1-0 win over Cultural Geta.
Making a note of that.
Mustachio. Mr. Effing Moustache.
Mr. Effing Moustache. Fancy getting sent off for that?
Puto Bigotes. I think we've got the podcast title.
I think you should be given an extra goal for that.
Yeah.
How bad was the moustache? That's what I want to know. I mean, was it a really bad moustache? Was it a Salvador Dali curly,
I would say that's a good moustache. But,
yeah.
Anyway, on that note, we'll leave it for today. But we are over at patreon.com/TSFP for the rest of the week. Come and join us. Loads of content, €4.75 a month. And if you don't want to do that, make sure you listen, watch, or maybe listen to the preview podcast, which comes up on Friday, looking ahead to this weekend in La Liga EA Sports. Adios, amigos.
Cheerio.